Hello and welcome back to 2 of 16 with your hosts James and Bert. And we have an excellent topic here today on energy. And to expand upon that, I'd like to give some backstory for myself. Derek here is quite familiar, quite aware of where I have been, I guess you can say emotionally over the last 3 weeks or so. And I'd like to tell the story of that, and then we can walk into the outcomes of what I have been thinking about. And the backstory is around 3 weeks ago, I hit a sort of slump. And to speak from the MBTI lens as an INTP, I was trying to find some sort of reason, some sort of meaning to keep going. But try as I might for like a week, I couldn't find anything. And then I kept trying that, and I kept being in this rut until eventually I came to this conclusion, which is that if I give up, if I don't try and find a reason, then that's when I become free. And then actually now let me give you the next step that I found, which is that there's probably something more fundamental to live by than reason. And that is this word here that I'm saying, energy. And I might suggest that energy is actually, like, if I use words, it's hard to capture what energy is. But one image that comes to mind here is energy is what happens when you're moving so fast that you can't think anymore. Like sprinting. If I'm sprinting and like I'm moving, that's energy. That's one example of energy. But
so if you're sprinting, you're sprinting towards something, are you not? So
Oh,
are,
yeah.
are you not focused?
Okay, so
Because I feel like part of what you're calling energy is no longer focusing on any one thing, but at the same time, if you're sprinting somewhere, you can sprint and be in your own head. Like if you're on a track that you've ran 100 times, you're used to it, and so you're more likely to zone out.
True. Okay, let me say it this way. So at that time, I was trying to find some reason, and I was waiting for that reason to come up. But what I realized was if I just go to the gym and I just sprint for like 30 minutes, then using the physical part of myself, I would have gotten myself out of the rut right away. Just because I'd be so energetic that I'd be like wanting to do all these things, and I don't need a reason. And there are many thoughts here, but there's an analogy I can make here, which is it's like being a kid. I don't know if you were like this kid, but a kid doesn't need a reason to play. And when they play, they're very energetic. And so,
well, speaking to the running at the gym first, I mean, release of endorphins, and it's like you actually have all this potential energy inside of you, and on a daily basis, you're not really using it, and so your body just kind of feels lethargic. And so when you go running, you get what's called a runner's high. Typically, that's different than what you're describing. Runner's high, I believe, happens when you're like an hour into running or something. You have your like second wind. In your case, I think you're finally learning that physical energy, like releasing physical energy, while I'm not sure that it creates new energy right then and there, it's that release that you're probably feeling that feels good or that feels useful, because that then will cause, I mean, your blood's pumping, your blood's flowing, your brain, is thinking. And I feel like it's almost like when we sit around just thinking all day long, especially as introverts, like it's almost, I'm surprised we don't get blood clots, because our blood's really not moving. It's not circulating is how I picture it. I feel like it turns into a sludge. And so going to the gym, same for me. I mean, not running so much. I don't like running. I do it merely to burn calories. But when I'm lifting weights at the gym, there's just this energy, and typically it's like letting out negative energy for me, so that I don't feel negative. And then while I'm working out, I also come up with really good ideas because the blood's flowing. And so you could say that that's in a certain type of energy, but I certainly would say that it creates this sort of environment for like your body, like just things are moving, things are flowing. I guess energy is radiating off of pinging off of different parts of your psyche as well. And then afterwards also, while you feel tired after working out physically, like there's still this time period at least, maybe it's the caffeine as well, where you just like, okay, now that I've had all these ideas, let's see what we can get done today. And so for me, that's how that works. It's less playful and more I don't know what word to use. It's integral for me to be productive, and so being productive is very important to me.
Yeah, and what I hear and what you say is that the physical aspect of yourself is directly connected to your brain and your ideas, and that's somewhat what I'm pointing to. Another way to say this, I think maybe this might be something more aligned to you, is even like no matter how stuck I am in one aspect of my life, I can use the other aspects of my life to almost like buffet that back up. So, okay, like one example is in a project I'm stuck, so I go work out. As I work out and I get my blood flowing, then the right ideas come to me.
Yeah, exactly. That's why people tell you like you should never just sit, for example, in front of a TV, computer screen longer than you have to, especially if you're stuck on something. I mean, a certain amount of time to try to do problem solving, but I feel like a person who's good at problem solving knows that you have to move around. Go do something, whether it's exercise, take a walk, read a book, do something else. I don't care what it is, go look at yourself in the mirror for a while, because unless you do that, you're kind of, I don't know what's really causing this per se, but like you're definitely, you're hitting a mental block. And so I think the subconscious does a lot of stuff when you're not focused on certain things. And so for me, that's exactly it, because I have laser focus when I'm working on something. And so that's all, like there's nothing else exists in my world. And therefore it makes sense for me to sort of let go. It's like driving a car, like you mentioned the redlining before. It's like you can't redline your car for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. You have to slow down or maybe take some curves or just get out of the car and go somewhere. You know what I mean? It's like if you run the engine hot too long, it overheats. And so that's theoretically what's happening there. It's like a engine overheating.
Yeah.
And then I'll just speak to the playing as a child. Sure, when I was playing alone, it was just like I want to imagine. I just wanted to. Probably it was more an escape for me, due to domestic issues. But like when I played with friends, it was somewhat planned out, even at a young age. And I was definitely thinking about what I was doing. But there were times, I'm sure, where I was just like, I'm just here. I'm here to play, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have another example here, which I would like to ask you, because one thing I connect to what we're talking about here is momentum. So have you ever observed in a conversation, for example, where it's really hard to get started, but then once it gets started, then it takes on a life of its own?
Frankly, any conversation I have begins that way, and that's what decides whether or not I want to speak with someone. That's why, for example, I don't like to start with small talk, because for some people, I suppose that's some sort of icebreaker and heats up, like turns the engine on, but I come in already pre-warmed. Mm-hmm. So if it's one way to look at it. I don't need that. I don't need to sit in the garage for an hour. And so I come in and I'm warm, so I want to talk about something interesting, or I want to get the ball rolling. But ball rolling, that's exactly what you're talking about. It's eventually generates more energy as it moves and propels itself. So conversations like we had on Thursday of last week, it didn't start out super energetic, but once we started to talk about something that we were both into and we were sort of pinging off of each other probably, then it became like, we were just really excited, right? And so that's probably what you're talking about, right?
That is what I'm talking about. And I'd like to contrast it against what I was trying to do before, which I think I connect this to a reason why I haven't really, if I look back, I don't feel like I had done that much in my life.
Oh.
And the reason why was I almost felt constrained to be able to logically explain what I'm doing first. And then once that is clear in my mind, then I can move. Mm-hmm. But what I was doing that week, and what I realized that I think like a lot of the most accomplished people in the world do, is they don't start there. They just get moving first.
Yeah, and so that's obviously the solution you come up with is just letting go, or in your case, give up, as I believe you call it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's like, it's kind of similar but opposite. Like we've said before, it's like when I explore too many ideas, then I don't get started on acting. The action doesn't begin until I start the planning phase, and then I have to make sure though that accountability is really important for me, and being accountable for taking continuous action. And so making sure that I'm doing that and keeping track of what I'm getting done is very important. It sounds as tight as what you're talking about with the way you think internally. And it is because they're similar. I'm using just an extroverted version of that. But without that grip on what I'm doing, then the energy disperses, because vision and introverted intuition is kind of spread out and kind of moving all over the place. And yeah, sure, it'll focus in on one thing, but pointing at something isn't anything. It's all that build up energy that's there needs to be released. And so that's where planning and execution comes in, strategizing. Is that release of said energy and creation of more as you get through, especially since every time I complete a step, the more energy I have, and it's actually doubled, tripled, quadrupled, however you want to look at it, especially if I'm moving in the right direction. However, unfortunately, it's quite damning in the other direction. Like if I'm not finishing things, or if that idea failed or whatever, like the energy starts to deplete, and so it's really difficult to build up new energy. And that's where maybe going to the gym, for example, will help, or I don't know, just going out, we go to meetups and things, we meet people. As much as I say I don't like to meet people, I don't, but I like to listen. I like to observe so that I can get some idea of what people are doing and just get out of my own head for a little while. But I do that in silence for the most part. Mm-hmm. If I hear, I'm desperate looking for someone that is worth talking to. What does that mean? That sounds really, really bad. But I'm talking about like the energy has to be aligned and the topic has to be of interest to me, and that creates new energy. I cannot create energy out of something I don't want to talk about or I don't want to listen to. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm turned off immediately when I either can't communicate with someone, or they're just talking about mundane, boring things that just, like they did their taxes last week and this is why they do it themselves. Like that's so boring to me. That's not future based.
Yeah, there's that reminds me, like what do you say about that with talking to a person? It has me think about, like, okay, so here's one example where people think about dating, right? And in their head they say, oh, this is the person I want to date. But then they meet in person and it just doesn't work somehow, right? And I connect that to the idea of, so you remind me of like, I was building this idea that like logic is here, right? And then a more fundamental, I can say lower level, I'll say it that way, is energy and something else. And one place you can see that very clearly is when you meet someone and talk with them, that's there. And when that's there, you want to talk to them again, you want to meet with them again. And like logically, it might be hard to explain, but there is some sort of energetic exchange that's happening.
And also, I think the feeling that you need to explain it is only working against you. It's like, go with your gut. Even people that aren't like myself, that have that gut instinct with a lot of things. There's some people they really second guess themselves. I find that second guessing for most people is not very helpful. Unless you're putting yourself in immediate danger, you're probably better off trying out something new, or going out of that, like the most inner part of the comfort zone.
Yes, and one way you can say that, one way I can say that is trusting that the draw of that energetic exchange, like whatever is like turning you on, and I might even like just propose that the people that have like really done like things that really take a life of their own, they're following that. They're not trying to convince themselves to do things.
Yeah, and so like I have done a lot, like when people ask me, where are you from, and like why are you here, why are you there, and then I tell them where I've lived and what I've done, like they can't even make heads or tails of it. And frankly, a lot of it is just because I knew that I needed to do something and I just did it. And even though, and frankly, I put myself in danger. Even now, the economic conditions are not optimal. I'm still doing it because there's something pushing me in a certain direction, and I go. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I'm advocating for here, because it almost sounds like, ooh, that is really scary. But that's the point too. It is scary. It's not like, wow, this is exciting. I love like putting my life at risk. Maybe some people feel that way. It's just, I just know that if I could have become an accountant, and I could have a really safe, secure job. I could have done that for the past 20 something years. I'd have a house, I'd have money, I'd have, wife, kids, dog, fence, garden, etc. But that's just, I don't know. I don't think I would have survived that. Like, you know what I mean? There's something inside of me that it's like, it's like this almost very basic instinctual need to explore, but also create, or just do something new or something exciting. In fact, I don't use that word very often, but frankly, I always want to be doing something interesting or exciting. I can't stand doing boring things. Like even doing a podcast in front of people, like in this scenario, it's like I sometimes just want to get up and like jump on the table. It's like, that doesn't sound very INTJ of me, but it's just because I feel this buildup of energy, and I'm like, all right, let's do something about these things we're talking about. Let's make something practical out of that. Let's make something real. Let's serve a purpose. Let's create value. And do you see, the reason why I'm just saying what I'm thinking right now is because that is what energy is in the purest form. Yeah. I'm now coming up with ideas. I'm basically getting excited. I can feel my blood getting a little bit warmer. I can feel my face getting flushed. And the reason is because I'm thinking about all the possibilities for my future.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd love to like use that example of the accountant to help me understand what we're talking about here, because like me looking at the life of the accountant, there's something in me that says like, sure, logically it's great, but there's something about it that's dead, and I think that's that essence, whatever that is, that's what I'm pointing to.
Although I have a cousin who was an accountant, and he went to school, he did all that stuff, and like he has a family, he has all the things I described, and then he moved into he sells real estate, he does all kinds of fun stuff that he loves doing. So I'm not ragging on accountants. I'm just saying, like, I guess that wasn't even a good example. There's no good example. Like, that's actually a safe option. You can take all the money you make from accounting just in 5-10 years, invest it into a whole bunch of different small businesses, into the stock market, etc. Diversification, right? And still live a better life than I'm living now. So I think what I'm kind of saying is, it's not just like, if you define yourself as one thing and one thing only, and put yourself into this like little box, then you become that. But if you don't do that, if you don't define yourself as something, is what I'm getting at, and that's what I don't want to do. Like, people ask me constantly, "What is your job? But what's your occupation?" I'm like, "Well, they're like, yeah, but what's your occupation?" They keep asking. It's like they're so desperate for me to give them the answer that they so desperately need, because they also want to define themselves in a certain way, and they're actually desperate for me to ask them so they can say, ping off or echo the voices of the dead onto me on what they do. And I don't really care, frankly, because their occupation has nothing to do with us meeting on a Friday night. You know what I mean? Are they gonna? We're not gonna talk shop anyway. So what's the point?
True. And your example of the accountant shows me that it's not exactly what you do, but it's like, it's not what you do, but it's almost like the quality of how you're doing it. So like, one accountant can be like all about embracing life, and they became an accountant so that they can enable everything that they want to do, and then they're taking life on like head first, right? That is the energetic life, connecting to what we're talking about today. Whereas another person's like, I don't know what to do. You know what? I think like being an accountant is a path that will keep me safe.
Yeah, the people are like, I'm going to become these days it's to become a developer. It's like, I want money, and they're like, that's where the money is. So now I'm a developer now, and it's like they don't have there's no instinct inside them whatsoever to actually, like, they just don't have the wherewithal to do it. Like, they have to teach themselves. It's like they force themselves to learn it. They don't even get good at it, or maybe they do. It's just like, I don't understand this thought process. Like, I'm like, you decide like, okay, it's one thing. I decide my vision is to be rich. Okay, that's one thing. But like how you get there, if how you get there is just to follow what other people do and just define yourself as that thing and then follow that path to get there, you're off to the wrong start. I mean, a percentage of people will get there, but you're not going to be fulfilled. You're not going to be happy. And then what if you don't get there? Now you're stuck. You've wasted. I don't like the word wasted. You've put yourself in a position where you're maybe in debt. You have a 8 years worth of degrees or more, and now you have no choice to be an engineer. However, if you leave the window open, or the door open rather, to opportunity, for example, you don't go out and get all those degrees, but you learn what you need for what you're doing, which is what I tend to do. That's why I am somewhat of a jack of all trades, but a master of none on the surface. So I have all these things that I'm good at, but the thing is I'm still the master of strategy. Mm-hmm. And all of those things that I take on, all those different hats that I put on, all the different types of careers I've had or different things I've done with my life, they have all built up my strength, which is where my energy comes from, my ability to strategize my life in order to move forward in life, in order to get from A to B. I've been all over the world. I've gone to university all over the world. I've worked with companies from all over the world. Okay, I'm being a little like I'm embellishing. I haven't worked for an African company, for example, nor have I been to Africa. But I'm just saying, like, only reason why I was able to do these things because I never said, you know what, I'm an accountant or I'm an engineer, or I'm this, and therefore I must follow this safe path. And why would I leave my city because it's safe? You know, I have a mortgage. You know, like these types of things.
Yeah, and.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't want to be tied down. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Oh yeah. So to connect it back to the topic here, so that building that in my head that's living by reason. But what if I may put in words of what I'm seeing right here is okay. Like there's all that, but it is for a more fundamental purpose. Which if I put in words here is pursuing life. It is pursuing energy. Like those are just means to that end. And to connect it to being a developer, there are developers that are pursuing development in pursuit of life, and that's like a really inspiring thing to see. Whereas there are people that are pursuing development.
It's just
in pursuit of reason.
I can't imagine even. I think less than 10% are doing the former, which is unfortunate.
But do you hear what I'm saying with becoming a developer in pursuit of life?
Yeah, I mean, in pursuit of life, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, sure, that makes sense. But for me, it's like I'm not pursuing life. I'm just okay. Sure, I'm pursuing a life that I want to have, and that's the end game, I guess. But I also then there's still a part of me that's like, you know, that's like no matter what, there's always going to be so many other variables there. So it's like what I'm trying to say is like. You can be driven by energy and you can drive yourself right off a cliff. You know, you're not always going to survive. It's not like I wanted to, like I mentioned earlier, there's a level of risk there. And I think we don't, I feel people don't grasp the concept of what risk really is. Or it's very black and white to them. It's like, it's either no risk, which is what the majority of people want, even though they don't realize they're actually living a very risky life by living sedentarily and eating and doing the activities they do. That's more risky than us going to the gym and being entrepreneurs. Anyway, so there's no risk, and then there's just risk. And risk to them is like, nope, that's too scary. I don't care what the amount is. No way, no how. I'm going to die if I do that. The fear of death, when you're going to die anyway, like if we could be immortal, sure, I would understand. Oh, well, I'm immortal, so I don't want to take the chance here because I might die, although you wouldn't be immortal. Anyway, you're immortal, but you have the potential to die. Meaning if you don't take risk, you live forever. This is a hypothetical. So let's say if you lived a life of zero risk, you could live infinitely. But the moment you take risk, you're putting the immortality at risk. Then I feel like no one would ever take risk ever again.
Yeah.
Well, some people might, just for the thrill of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, just that the mentality of like risk is so scary to people, especially where, I don't know why I'm localizing it now, especially where we live now. It's very fascinating to me, but while I understand it, like everybody understands what comfort is and what a comfort zone is, but it's like some people, I don't know if it's like, I want to get back to energy, and that's where I'm coming back full circle.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't do that. If I'm sit still for too bloody long, I lose my mind. I'm losing it right now trying to explain it, because like I must do something. I have to be doing something, and not something fun. I don't need to go out drinking or playing. I'm talking like, if I'm not making something of myself, like if I'm not creating something, or I don't know.
Can I attach words to that, which is
Please.
like you want to do something that makes you come alive?
Come alive and create, like we talk about, create value. But frankly, I don't know. I mean, I don't put words to it. I don't want to. I feel like energy is so raw for me that it's like, if at the moment I try to explain it, I use the nerdy voice. I've screwed myself up, because now I'm using logic and just trying to explain it. I don't want to explain myself.
There you go. And if I can connect that to what how I've been, like the thought process I've been going over in the past few weeks is, I've created the hypothesis that I don't have to explain it, and even if I do explain it, I can immediately let the explanation go. The explanation is a map, and then I can put the map down and then I can live my life, because well, once to put another map up, the ultimate goal here that I'm seeking is life, energy, some sort of like embodiment of what I'm going for. Where I was before, I think, was I was living in the maps, and then I was trying to navigate by the maps, and one idea I've been exploring, we can talk about this, is like that will never convince me enough. Eventually, I will run out of steam. One thought process I was having was like, and I sent this message to you, that reason itself is weak. Reason itself is weak. I can give you all the reasons in the world, but if you are scared, for example, then you still can't do it.
I mean, reasons sound very similar to excuses. They're working the other way around. It's like, oh, I have a million reasons not to do something. I constantly hear people explain to me why they don't do things that they want to do.
There you go. Yeah.
Or explain to me why they can't do the thing that I suggest, or why I'm dumb for doing what I do, which is even more fascinating, because I'm living my life and they're living my life through their eyes. Like, why are they telling me what I shouldn't do? So
I'd love to hear like how you hear that. Do they have any like convincing power to you?
I feel pity. I feel I'm looking at someone who's suffering, and I feel like I would like to help. I would like to unlock something in them that they want unlocked. They don't think they do sometimes, but
yeah, I'm asking.
What do I hear? I don't know. I mean, of course, I'll hear them out, and it is. I don't think it's possible to be impermeable to words. You know,
you're gonna hear them. They're gonna come in.
Yeah, because I feel, it depends on the person. If it's someone I don't know, I don't care. They can say whatever they want. I'm not gonna listen to a damn word that they say. But if someone somewhat close to me or close to me says something, then they wouldn't be close to me. They wouldn't already be close to me if I didn't expect. If I didn't want to hear what they had to say, you know what I mean?
There you go.
I don't know what I'm really how I'm trying to word that, but I trust them, and it's like, okay, well, you're in my life for a reason. There must be some reason I let you in, because it's very rare. So that means what you say must be valuable to me, at least to the extent of I will listen, I will hear you out, because I'm not always right. They might actually be like telling me something that'll save my life or save something, and so therefore. Well, now I'm using logic, but to explain it, therefore, it's worth hearing. Yeah. However, my instinct is to not listen to anybody ever. Honestly, I don't want to, because that energy I was talking about before, it's almost the same thing as doing small talk. It's like putting a governor on what I'm doing. Yeah. I don't want to slow myself down. I don't want to pace. I've heard people say that to me a lot of times. Pace yourself. Slow down. Take your time. And I'm like, why am I doing it? Like, as soon as I start stopping. Decelerate, then the deceleration is perpetual. Just like perpetual motion forward only propels itself faster and creates more energy, in fact, what I'm really looking for in people, and this is what I'm actively looking for right now, even if you're listening to this podcast, are people who are wanting to be behind me or beside me. Because I don't want to hear negativity against any ideas I have. I don't want to hear rationality sometimes. I really want people that are like, yeah, I want to go with you. Let's see where we're going. I trust you. Let's see where that goes. Because those types of people are like, they're the catalyst of like, oh my God. It's like really, really, really cool. Because so much can get done when people are helping you do it.
Yeah. I'd love to ask you,
Yes.
With like, okay, just looking at, I mean, I know that you don't really look out and see other like examples, but I'd love to ask you the question: um, which one seems to be running the world more, the force of life and power and personality, or the force of reason and like discussion and like
I
and
see
logic?
I see the latter trying to create a globe or a force or just some sort of enclosure around everything so that the former can't go past that point. I think the world would be driven or is driven by people who break through that barrier. People like Elon Musk currently, which everyone hates suddenly. The Apple guy,
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, and it's whatever. Even when you were mentioning Bonaparte, Napoleon Bonaparte, whatever your motivation is. Those people are, I don't know. It's like either, what I mean, it's like they're able to get through that membrane, but most people can't. Most people are bounced back down into logic and reality.
Yeah.
The word reality might sound a bit weird there, but like the things that, at least for me, the things that I envision are not real. These are things I want to create, and you can't. What exists inside of this dome already exists, and what's outside of it, I guess, is the unknown, if you will, or things that either no one really creates matter, right? So it's like, but you're creating something from the existing matter. So those new ideas are what are breaking outside of the dome. So what drives? Was it the word drive you used?
Sure. Yeah. What do you think drives the world more fundamentally?
Fundamentally, I would say then the former, and the latter tries to control it.
Yeah, and I would actually say the latter doesn't actually control anything. Here's my theory: the latter. When we say latter, we mean the logical map.
Yeah, I just forgot what you said.
The logical map doesn't actually control anything. It is an underlying fear and desire to be safe that's directing that logical map.
Yeah, so whether it's something that's like trying to hold the steering wheel with you, like holding over your hand, or I almost picture it as like spirits from the underground, like coming out and pulling you downward, like keeping you on the ground and keeping you where you are so that you can't move. And the person has more energy, and the person who's willing to move forward kind of breaks free from the grasp of those spirits that are coming from underground, and that drives everything.
The person just the person. Okay, and okay, if I can say it this way too, when we talk about known and unknown, I connect that to the whole like world of the map. Like you're talking about known and unknown, but then someone who moves by energy isn't even thinking about known and unknown. They're moving by just a propulsion.
I don't know, because I feel like my subconscious is fast and does that for me. It's probably like, oh, I know that, I don't know that. And it knows where I should go. I'll bring you back to MBTI reluctantly, somewhat. ENTJs with extroverted thinking. First, that's what they move forward fast. It's not because they're doing it like blindly. It's not they're taking on more risk. They're just that fast at processing information and knowing where they want to go with a small amount of risk. But like, there's enough. The NI underneath is enough to kind of keep them, because like you see me kind of shaking here, like it's trying to steer the wheel, but like while the extroverted thinking is driving really, really harshly forward, and I can direct it somewhat. So that's why they're able to go further, faster in a somewhat right direction most of the time. So I'm not going to ever use an absolute there. Whereas vice versa, INTJ, the steering is the TE, so the drive is kind of like the NI. It's like, it's like and then it suddenly knows where it wants to go, but the push forward is to a lesser extent, but much more controlled.
Okay.
So I'm more so ENTJ. There's 2 points here. He or she will get there faster than I, so we're both going to the same place. However, I am more likely to recognize that's kind of not exactly where we need to go. We need to be here more precisely, and I will get there more slowly. Not always. Sometimes I'm faster actually, because I can plan. I'm just if the conviction's there, What's even more powerful though is you have an ENTJ and INTJ together. That's just ridiculous, because you got the best of both worlds there.
Yeah.
If the vision aligns.
Yeah, I can actually totally see that being just like almost like just a really easy way to get unstuck, because I feel I see in each person two dimensions, inside and outside, and then the ENTJ will pull the INTJ outside of their inside world.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Because that's honestly, that's what I lack a lot of the time. It's like I have the best ideas, I have all the motivation, I have the energy's there, the potential energy's there, but I just need that push or that drag,
kinetic
pull, whatever. Yeah, to convert. I need that conversion to happen, and frankly, it's not going to happen with a bunch of other introverts next to me, especially non-INTJs. In fact, there's a lot of pulling going on there. So the spirits I was talking about, it feels somewhat similar.
If I can add on to this the way of looking at it through MBTI, one way I thought about this while I was going through this issue is that there is something more fundamental happening here than the MBTI functions, which is almost the pursuit of energy. Mm-hmm. And so an ENTJ, I think, instinctively knows that if I don't move right now, I'm just going to become lethargic. So I'm just going to do the T things that are in front of me, and then we'll see. We'll ride the energy wave to see what happens next.
Which is usually more things. Like they just don't stop. Like it just yeah. I mean, they're always doing stuff. They want to fill the entirety of the every waking moment is filled.
Yeah, yeah. And like my version of that was like, okay, like I could sit here and like really try and build a TI map that I'm convinced by, which like I found that is it doesn't I can't live my life by that. I'm gonna get stuck again sometime. I'm just gonna go and do something full on. I'm just gonna go to the gym and like run, or like I'm gonna read this book and just read it to the end.
Yeah. So, and that for you was more like you said. It's not goal oriented. As long as once you take away the bumpers like a bowling or the guide, the rails. What do you call them?
If you're talking about
cars.
Bowling, it is
cars now. Guide rails.
Cars.
Whatever rails. Once the rails are removed, guardrails.
Okay.
That's when you thrive. It's when you don't think about it. And frankly, turn your brain off, more or less.
Yeah.
Like you're not turning it off. You're turning off the logical part of the brain, and you're turning on the what's going on in the world part of your brain, and just taking everything in as it comes to you. You know, you're not really thinking ahead. I believe, and just kind of. Wherever like you've said many times, your body doesn't exist, but like wherever you are at that moment, what's there is what you'll explore. So I would imagine somewhere like this, sure, there's equipment, but like an empty room would be quite boring. Well, for me as well. But like a room full of people, a room full of gadgets, a room full of something, I think, isn't that more likely to unleash the play side?
Yes. However, that can also be a place where I get stuck if I'm like trying to convince myself which one I should choose.
Right, but you shouldn't do that. You should just go to the one that your eyeballs saw first.
Yeah, I'm just like, I picked this up. Okay, this is what I'm doing today. I'm going to go as hard as I can. And then at some point, like because of the momentum I'm in, I might switch to something else. But none of it is governed by some kind of logical step-by-step, like, oh, this is why I'm doing this.
No. And that all somewhat is formulated while you're doing it.
Yes.
And when you get home, maybe like, I mean, obviously while you're doing it, introverted thinking is building those maps for you. So you don't really have to listen to it that much, I feel like.
Yeah. And one way we're going to talk about this is I'm decoupling introverted thinking from my life.
Okay.
Introverted thinking is, well, introverted thinking is a tool I can use.
Okay.
But it's not how I'm living.
Okay. Whatever works for you. That's the other thing. Like, we were talking again. We try to explain stuff. We try to add logic to everything. It's like what work? Like I literally just said it. What works for you? Because that made no sense to me. Because I'm thinking, your hero function disconnected you. That doesn't sound cognitively safe. But that doesn't matter what I think. I'm just using logic to try to explain why that doesn't work or wouldn't work. But it doesn't matter because it's working. Like here's living proof of that approach, if you will, working just fine.
Yeah, and if I'm gonna build the map, which, like, what I love is I can build the map and then let it go completely. Just adding another node above the hero function, which is energy. And so now TI introverted thinking is not the god. Introverted thinking is a tool towards life. So I thought of one analogy, one picture that I used in my own mind to convince myself that logic is not primary, even though I have been living that way. And thus, I might almost view from an objective place that, my conviction for what I do has always been shaky. And that is me trying to convince you to eat a piece of poop. No matter what reasons I give you, I can give you all kinds of reasons. I can tell you, oh yeah, we sanitized it, we cleaned it up, and don't worry, it tastes like pizza, right? And then I give it to you, and no matter how many logical reasons I give to you, it's still a piece of poop. And you will react viscerally, you will react emotionally in ways that, like, you can't convince yourself to do it.
I mean, unless you have that type of fetish.
But sure.
So
but see, once
saying
again,
human waste that has been, no matter what you do, it's human waste.
I mean, like, okay.
And so, and obviously the reaction to that is never going to be good. No matter what you do to it, you're still going to picture the waste. So
yes, and what I'm saying here is there is a part of yourself more fundamental than reason that will prevent you from doing it and is more powerful. The bodily rejection, the emotions that you get around, the feeling of disgust is way more powerful than any like logical reason I can give you.
Yeah, honestly, I just equate it to your body just knows you're not meant to eat it. Like for me, that's what I say. Like, but I think that's not really your point. Your point is just saying like let's say if I can turn it into a business analogy, I'm selling this product. You don't want it.
Oh,
it's not. You don't need it. Let's say it's a feminine hygiene product or just something that a male wouldn't use or just whatever. There's nothing I can say to you. Although maybe if I'm a really good salesperson, there's really theoretically nothing I can say to you that will make you want to purchase that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a physical, practical implication. But the same thing with logic. No matter how I explain something to you is illogical to you or you don't believe it, it doesn't matter how I explain it to you. You're not going to accept it as truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like you're not going to purchase something you don't need, nor are you going to eat human waste.
Yeah, and even there, it's not necessarily true that reason is the well, I'm just pointing to the idea of something like, I mean, you love cars, right? Mm. And your love of cars is going to translate into a certain price that you're willing to pay. And that is, in one way to say it is illogical. Logic is not involved here. There's something else that's drawing you to want the car.
Yeah, okay, so it's the want that's not logical, because I'm thinking, well, I'm always going to use logic to decide whether I can afford it. I usually like to buy a base car and then I like to add parts to it. So I'll add piece by piece because obviously you don't want to drop $50K on a car unless you have it. But even that's illogical. But you're talking about just the force that's pulling me in is illogical.
Yes, and like if you really drill into why you want to add those pieces, like ultimately it's just
all the way back to my childhood. We talked about my hobbies last week with the Transformers. It has something to do with my childhood.
Yeah, so
something in the psyche.
Yeah, that's what I'm pointing to. There's something there. Like if I can just put the label life, there's something there that is the source of the energy. Mm-hmm. That's like.
And that is what I wish people would do. Like that's another thing I tell people. It's like, okay, you have hobbies, you have things you like. You would do it. You would, like you said, you would spend unreasonable amounts of money on something, or time, or eat things that make your life make you unhealthy. Why are you not doing the same thing with your life choices? Like I mean, your major life choices, like the job you work at. Why are you not drawn, or the thing that you're drawn to, the passion that you have for something or even someone? Like if you really, really feel strongly about someone, but you're too scared to, like, because of the situation, to pursue that person, that's also foolish to me. Just follow your heart. Go for the person, because what's the worst thing that can happen? You know, you're going to feel worse if you didn't try. Same thing with work or career, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't even have to be a career, but I mean, whatever it is you do to survive, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things you can do that aren't jobs at all, you know? So anyway, what I'm really saying is what draws you, and it's just, aren't you more powerful? We're talking about energy. We're talking about conviction. Well, we somewhat started to talk about conviction. We're talking about logic, and like doing logic is very, very confining, very, very like
That's yeah.
what is the word I want to use? I think that's the best word.
Well, the word I was using in my thought process was it's weak. Like in these examples we're using, logic is not in control here.
Mm-hmm.
It's something else is way more powerful.
Yeah, it's like trying to harness energy, you shouldn't. That's all I'm saying. Like, you just really shouldn't. Like, I can't, I'm trying to think of, like, because now I'm always trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to think, when is it poor to just go, and like, yeah, I imagine if I'm like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure if I jump off this cliff, I'm going to hit that river. Okay. That's something you might not want to do, but people do that. They wear these like flying squirrel suits now, and they just jump off of mountains. That's pretty damn close, and that looks fun if I were insane.
And if I might add, there is something there more powerful than logic once again.
Yeah, there's no logic there.
That takes control. The urge, the instinct to survive is going to take control, and then you're gonna apply that to like not jumping.
What's fascinating is like some of the logic that we apply, like some of the ghost logic that just people don't even know why they're telling you to do it. Like you should eat potatoes, you'll grow faster when I was younger. I heard that a lot. Or drink milk and you'll grow. They don't even like, and then that turns out to be false. That's false logic. And it's like people are following these fake rules, these constraints that, like you said, are weak. Because obviously I just pointed out two that are weak. They're just weak in general. I don't know where I was going. I lost myself because when I was just picturing the person jumping off of the mountain with those suits. They look like flying squirrels. Like, there's no logic there. There's nothing that we learned as a child that dictates that you should ever even consider such an idea. In fact, they even say don't. Would you follow your friend off of a cliff, or like like I said, drink your milk, or don't do this and that. All these things we're told, like superstitions, etc. I think superstitions are like meant to be logic too. I'm not.
I connect superstitions to once again something more powerful than logic, which is fear.
Oh yes, we should talk about fear. Is fear the antithesis of energy? Fear is a different type of energy, I guess.
Fear is also energy,
dark energy.
But I feel like what we're digging at here is like logic is never in control.
Yeah, well, it shouldn't be. You should. I think because we're talking about weakness. If logic is as weak as we're saying, then a person that follows logic blindly is even weaker than logic itself.
Yes, and a person that follows logic blindly, I would assert, is actually following fear.
Yeah, or at least there's fear's there.
Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to make any mistakes. Like that.
Yeah. That's kind of why I hated maths in school. It's like maths is all logic. And I'm like, yeah, but what about this? No. This is the rules. Ooh. And I'm like, yeah, but do you have can I see some proof? There's not even a drawing, just some lines.
Yeah. And I would also assert, like, I mean, I've done my study of the most famous mathematics, like mathematicians in history. They're not driven by logic ultimately. They're driven by this like desire to discover and like collaborate and like learn more about the frontiers of math. That's a way more like emotional draw than like, I wonder what happens if I add X here.
I think.
Well, see, but even that is an emotional thing. It's not logical to say I wonder what happens.
Yeah, just wondering anything is not logical. So I think that's why my distaste for engineering exists. Like, you might think, oh well, but you do it, and it's like it's almost intuitive, but it's also very logical. It's all zeros and ones. It's all maths, and I think that's what turns me off. I think what turns me on about engineering, not engineering, but like software engineering, is the possibilities. But that's never the position I find myself in. I'm always the person that's doing full stack development or in charge of something, some small little thing, and I don't really have any power. And so that's why I can't stand saying that I'm a software engineer, because I'm not. That's why I can't use a label for something that I have disdain for. No offense to software engineers. I don't think that's what I'm doing. I want to strategize how we approach some project in order to push the project forward and get to some goal. That has nothing to do with engineering. That's just strategizing.
Yeah, and if I might put words to that, it sounds like you are pursuing something that energizes you. You feel it's important. It makes you come alive. And what I do see often in like a corporate software engineering environment is I just don't feel that energy, that life there.
Yeah, I mean, the only time I have excitement when I'm doing that is like once every 6 months. Like I'll solve a random bug that I just thought was impossible to fix, and I'll just have this little tiny, teeny, tiny burst of like, oh, feel good for like just an afternoon, and it's like it's gone. And like there's nothing that screams louder to me that you're doing the wrong thing. You know, it's like, so my point here is though, it's like, well, but I'm talking about I want to strategize in the world of computing though. I am very fascinated by computers, by even artificial intelligence to some extent, and just the software, like what you can do with software, what it creates in reality for people. Like I'm talking about the functionality, the tools themselves, but not the creation thereof, or therein, or speak normal English and just that it contains. Anyway, so yeah, and I think it's just because technology is supposed to be new, and it's like it's what is modern, or what I mean is it's futuristic. So that's where I'm always going to attach myself to the newest thing for that reason. Or better yet, I'd love to come up with something new myself. Frankly, it doesn't even, I mean, it could be organic, inorganic, doesn't matter. So that's where the fascination for me is. And we've talked previously a bit. I'm just going to go a little bit further here and say, like, I like languages. I like the idea of like just that this is, it's like so weird to me that lines of almost what looks like gibberish, but at the same time looks like English, does stuff. That's fascinating to me. So that is the part of engineering that I like, but that's not enough. That's not a drive. That's not energetic. That's just haha. It's just interesting. I mean, like hobbies and interests, those are like small energy things, is what I kind of see them as. They can build a little bit of energy, but they're not. It's not a perpetual energy. It's not a recycled energy very much. It's more just like it's almost like we talked about brain dumps before. For me, like my hobbies are more like brain dumps. Yeah, they're like a relax. It's like a different set of hormones that are like coming into play there.
Yeah, that's a fascinating like just thing you just explored there, which all just point to this idea that seems to be what is driving you the most, which is like the drive. And the drive is another word we can put here for energy or life.
I like it.
Yeah. If I can make one more reference here, I've been watching a Korean drama called 복사 속았으다, When Life Gives You Tangerines. And it's all about a person's life growing up in the 1950s and 1960s. And
there's a lot of yelling in that.
Yes, a lot of yelling, and also, so this is Korea, just incredibly poor area of Jeju, and it feels like there's just no way out. For someone like that, I feel like the pursuit of life is what people say like is the culture of boomer culture, which is safety, stability, having a house, having a job, you know, those are like your dreams.
Right.
And so I feel like that those were their dreams, and so they were actually also pursuing life and energy.
Yeah.
And then they were attempting to, here's the theory I'm building, they were attempting to pass that same dream onto the next generation, but that's not the same dream. It wasn't the same dream.
Yeah, in fact, that's a great thing that you brought up there, because like I don't think we should ever do that. I don't think we should ever try to pass anything on to anyone, because nothing from the past should be pushed forward. The past is the past. The things that were their goals, obviously, assuming they attained those goals in their lifetimes or in that generation, then the next generation should always be a move forward, you know, or in a direction, let's say, because forward, backwards, these are really dumb terms in my opinion, because we're gonna like that is still trying to apply logic to direction, and I don't think that makes any sense. I think just using energy to move around is all I'm saying. It doesn't even have to be in a direction. You go in like a curvy line, it doesn't matter. But sitting still and turning around and looking at something that doesn't exist anymore, aka the past.
There you go. Yeah.
And glorifying it even so. Like we always hear from certain the gold like Americans, the golden generation, which was the people who lived through like World War I and World War II, are the best generation, etc. It's like, yeah, and that's true statistically, or like it looks true on paper, and it was true then. It's not true now. it's not anything. They're all dead mostly.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So
it doesn't exist
now
anymore.
it's like what good does that do us looking at what we have current? Like I think people don't look at what we have.
Mhm.
Like even
Yeah.
I'm not really looking. I'm not paying too much attention to reality because that's not my thing. But like I feel like the people who are good at that and should be the ones that are in charge of that. That's their role and that's where their energy is best served. They're not. They're somewhere else. I don't know what they're doing. And the people like myself or like you that should be tinkering around with things, we're off doing other things. I just feel like a lot of people are not aligned at all with their energy. And their convictions are
There you go. Yeah.
either not being like they're ignoring them if that's possible, or I don't want to claim that they don't have conviction because I'm not sure that's how conviction works. But I'm getting a little bit off of my own like ability to understand what I'm saying. But I'm just saying like I don't know, man. Focus, and we talk about awareness. There's a lot of that kind of stuff that like I don't know, like technology has just caused people to not pay attention to anything.
There is that. And if I can connect what I just shared with the topic of energy today, and you're talking about how like direction, like I think even direction is a form of logic, and also following the example of a past generation is a form of logic and like safety and fear. And if you go that direction, it's possible to just completely disconnect from your own life and energy.
It's also dangerous.
Dangerous?
Potentially.
Oh, okay.
Trying to live that way, like in a time where it just doesn't work. I mean, people like let's just say, like they used to beat children at school, and like there's still people now that think, that should still be a thing. Which doesn't mean you can't just go beating children at school now. That'll get you in jail and lawsuits and all that stuff. And that's because they were just thinking that the old ways were better, and not actually understanding what is actually better, logic or not. Or well, I guess I'm trying to apply logic there as well, but
yeah,
just not in tune with reality.
There you go.
Is one thing.
And if I can say one way to look at living by logic is actually almost living out of tune with your own reality. Living by some map instead of living by what, like the energy. Mm-hmm. And like, yeah, the past generation, the energy came from pursuing material means. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is like having a roof over my head, having a roof over my head. And, the passion you share, or the passion you spoke of, which is like pursuing what inspires you, your heart. That is, I would almost say, like the millennial energy. That's millennial energy. And then as like with each generation, as reality moves to other places, their own energy draws them in other places. And like I almost think like they don't have to explain to each other, because they can't, because there is an energy that they're drawn to, and that is, to connect this to today's topic, that is the most important thing.
Yeah. Energy. So I guess the point is like almost be true to yourself. So first of all, know who you are. Mm-hmm. Be aware of that. And try to sort of search within yourself what gives you, like I'm just giving like some tips here now. I'm like off the top of my head, like what drives you? Ask yourself, what drives you? If the answer, and I pray that it is what you're currently doing in your life and you're on track, then wow, awesome. You don't even need to watch us anymore. But if it's not, ask yourself, what is it? Even if it's like little by little, one step at a time, or even if it's just being aware, I feel like that in and of itself will plant seeds or a seed at least, in the subconscious, and it'll help. I don't want to use the word help, but it might say something to you that you'll hear, and then you'll feel inclined to do something about it. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I made it so wordy.
Oh, that's great. And like what I just want to wrap up with is the idea that there is something more powerful than the logical mind. And I think what we've seen in all these examples is just how apparent that is. I've seen in my own life.
Okay, so it's great examples of how that's embodied itself in your life, and I've gone on about what energy is to me at least, and so I think this is a really good topic to honestly maybe continue in the future. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we can think about that, and that sounds like a good way to wrap up today.
Yep.
So, hey, see you next time.
Bye.